Hi, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my April wrap-up. So I read 11 books in the month of April, and some of them were just so amazing and I cannot wait to talk about them. I found literally one of my favorite books of all time, and then some of them weren't so great, but yeah, let's just get into all of the books that I read last month. So the book that I started off with was Thrive by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I started this book in March and then I finished it on like the first or second day of April, and this is the 6th book in the Addicted and Calloway Sisters series. I started this series back in November, so I've slowly been getting through it. I finally read the 6th book. I hadn't read this series since December. The 5th book was like my last book of 2021, so I basically took like a 3-month long break from this series, and then I finally picked up this book, and I'm so glad that I finally read this book. I literally loved it so much, and this one's basically just the last 2 books that came before this one in Lily and Lo's perspective. So it's like the events of Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower, but you're seeing kind of what went on with Lily and Lo. So while I had many reasons for putting off reading this, the main one being that I wasn't prepared to read it because I didn't want to be closer to the end, one of my other reasons was that I was worried I would be like a little bit bored because it is just the same thing that I already read in different characters' perspectives. But I actually found that it wasn't boring to me at all. It also was interesting to kind of see like Lily and Lo's perspective on certain things that happened, especially because you kind of get a different side of it and you find out things that you really didn't know before. And I also feel like they did a good job at like not recapping too much. Like there was really only a few scenes that were kind of the same as the last 2 books, and most of those scenes I actually was glad to have them in Lily or Lo's perspective. So yeah, I really loved this one a lot. I think because I took that break, it was also more enjoyable because I remembered the series pretty well, but like there were certain things that I obviously forget over time, and so I was kind of like reminded and kind of got a recap of those things that happened. That way now when I finally read the next book, whenever that happens, I kind of remember better what happened leading up to that. So yeah, obviously I loved it. I can't wait to continue this series, and I rated this one 5 stars. So Thrive kind of put me in a reading slump only for like a day, but like that normally doesn't happen to me because I have so many books on my shelf and I normally have options and I have things that I want to read. But when I finished Thrive, I pretty much didn't want to read anything, and I didn't know what to read because most of the books that I kind of was thinking about reading just weren't like sounding interesting to me. So I decided that I needed something kind of like fast-paced and just quick to get through, and something that'll like keep me engaged and keep me out of a reading slump. So I feel like a good go-to for that for me is sports romance, and I love sports romance. I love hockey sports romance specifically. So yeah, I decided to read a book that fell under that category, and I read Pucked by Helena Hunting. So this book, I didn't like it like at all. I rated it 2.5 stars, and I feel like that was really generous and I should have rated it lower. I guess it was entertaining because I did finish it, but I don't know, I think I was just trying to give it a chance, so that's why I continued reading it. And I kept expecting it to get better and it just didn't. Like it just got worse somehow. But it was just so cringy. I didn't really like it. The humor, I don't know if it just wasn't for me, but this book is supposed to be like funny, I guess. Like it's like considered a rom-com. Nothing about it was funny to me. Like I just thought the humor was so cringy and dumb. Like I didn't laugh at any of the things that were clearly supposed to be jokes. Both of these characters would just say like really dumb things and things that just literally made me cringe. Like I got so much secondhand embarrassment reading this book. I don't know, I just did not enjoy it at all. I mean, I will admit it was fast-paced. Like I continued reading it because I kind of wanted to see what was going to happen, but it didn't get better. This book, if you don't know, it started off as Twilight fanfiction, and I don't know if it's because I knew that going in that it like kind of made me see it that way, but it felt very like I could tell that it was fan fiction just the way it was written. And again, I don't know if it's because I knew that and I kind of like had that in my head as I was reading it, but it just was written like fan fiction kind of. I forgot to say what it was about, but basically it follows Violet, and her stepbrother is on a professional hockey team, and then she goes to a game like with her parents, with her mom and her stepdad, and then she meets Alex, who is her stepbrother's teammate, and he's also the captain of the team. And so yeah, right away they have like this like instant connection between them. They meet like that night of that game, and then they have like a one-night stand, and she basically like doesn't expect anything more from him. Like she knows how it works and she's not really expecting like any sort of commitment or anything from him. Like she just assumes it's a one-night one-night stand and like they're not going to see each other again, or they're just going to move on from it. But then turns out he really likes her, and he starts like kind of trying to contact her, and like he's trying to get to know her and kind of win her over, because she, I don't know, like he starts sending her gifts and stuff, and she kind of is like a little reluctant, I guess, to like be with him. I don't know. And then she like starts to kind of accept it, but then stuff happens, and I don't know. It wasn't very good. I feel like with the synopsis, like it sounded interesting and I thought it had potential, and I didn't like it. So yeah, I don't know. I was considering reading the next book just because, I don't know, I was thinking I should just give it a chance maybe. But the next book does follow Violet's stepbrother and then Alex's sister. And from what we saw in this book, I didn't really like either of them. So the fact that the next book just kind of like follows the two of them, I don't think I'm gonna like it. So I don't know. I don't know if I should give it a chance. If you've read it and you have any thoughts, let me know. But I did not like this book. So after that, I still was wanting like more sports romance, because that book didn't really help me with getting out of a reading slump like I was hoping it would. So I ended up reading Puck Shy by Tegan Hunter, and this one was significantly better than Puck. And I don't know if it's just because like Puck was so bad that I kind of like didn't really have high expectations going into this one, but I just thought it was a lot better. I thought it was a really cute book. I ended up really enjoying it. And so this one again is hockey sports romance. It follows Harper and Colin. And so Colin is a, you know, famous hockey player, and he's on his way back home, I think after visiting his family or something, and his car breaks down. So then he starts walking to like find a gas station, and as he's walking, a car almost hits him, and the person driving the car obviously pulls over, gets out, and checks on him, and that person is Harper. So at first she offers like to help him, but then they find out that they're both kind of going in the same direction, so then she offers to just give him a ride home. They're still like a few hours away from the city that they're going to, and they're just kind of having this road trip together, and they're talking the whole time, and they kind of hit it off. They're like getting along really great, but he's kind of worried about like her knowing that he is a hockey player. Like he doesn't want her to know, because she's just treating him like a regular guy. She doesn't know like at all who he is. Like she's not into sports at all. She literally doesn't care. So then they end up getting back home. They kind of part ways. They don't like exchange contact information or anything. And then a few weeks later, they both kind of keep thinking about each other, and they both ended up signing up for dating apps, just because like their friends, I think, kind of encouraged them to do it. And he ends up finding her on the dating app, and right away he like recognizes her and he messages her, but she doesn't know that it's him because he didn't show his face, I guess, in the pictures. He doesn't tell her that it's him either, which I'm not really a fan of, that whole trope, like the whole secret identity thing and them like messaging as someone else. But that's kind of what happens in this book. So yeah, that's the basic synopsis. That stuff kind of all happens in the beginning of the book, and then you just kind of see how their relationship progresses later on, and like what happens when she finds out and all of that. I will be honest, I completely forgot everything about it after I finished it. I don't know what that tells you about it, but I did think it was cute. Like after I finished it, I rated it 4 stars, but then by the time I read my next book, I couldn't tell you anything that happened in this book. The only reason I remember is because I recently read the second book that follows this one, and you get kind of some recap stuff, so that's why I remember what happened in this book. But yeah, that doesn't happen to me usually. Like I'm really good about remembering what books are about that I've read, but this one I just forgot everything, and I don't know why. I guess it just wasn't super memorable, but it was a really cute book and I enjoyed it, so I would recommend it if you're looking for something kind of quick, fast-paced, and just something to help, again, get you out of a slump. So the next book that I read, I absolutely loved. It was so good, and it was The Confidence of Wildflowers by Macaulay Smeltzer. So this book, I was like a little bit hesitant going into it because it is an age gap. It is a pretty big age gap, so if you're not like a fan of that, you probably won't like it. But she's 18 and he is 31. She's out of school already though, so yeah, there's that. I wouldn't have read it if she was still in high school, but I really enjoyed it. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It was just a really great book. It was really cute in the beginning, but then it gets really just sad. Like it's very devastating, kind of some of the stuff that happens in this book. So it's really not like a cute, lighthearted romance. It seems that way in the beginning. Honestly, like when I was reading this book, it was one of the cutest books I had ever read, and then it just wasn't because of things that happened. But basically it follows Salem and Thayer, and so Salem, she just graduated high school, and she kind of doesn't really know what she's doing with her life. And so she's still living with her mom, and then her new neighbor moves in next door. His name's Thayer, and he is just kind of like rude to her. He's very grumpy. It does follow like the grumpy sunshine trope. And then just slowly over time, they kind of start to interact a little bit more and become like friendlier with each other. And then one day he asks her if she wants to like babysit his son for him. He is a single dad. And she agrees to that. And so as she's kind of spending more time with Thayer and his son, she slowly starts to fall for him, and he starts to fall for her too. Obviously things are kind of complicated because she is a lot younger than him, but they both are falling in love with each other. But yeah, that's kind of the main synopsis of what happens, and that's kind of what you get like in the first majority of the book. What I will say is that I saw the ending coming. I guessed it very early on in the book, so I wasn't surprised by what happened. And I know a lot of people didn't like this book because of the ending. That wasn't a complaint for me personally, just because I knew it was gonna happen, so I wasn't like surprised by what happened. And so I ended up rating this one 5 stars, and I had to think about that for a little bit, but I did decide that it was a 5-star book. I enjoyed it a lot, and the relationship between Salem and Thayer was just really sweet, and I really enjoyed reading that and kind of seeing how their relationship developed, and just some of the things that happened between them were really cute. There was one scene that I really loved that I want to talk about, and this was kind of just like cute, like lighthearted part of the story for the most part. But basically they go to a concert together, and he ends up buying her pit tickets for this concert, and then he buys her merch while they're like there like waiting for the concert to start. And I just loved that scene so much because it was basically just perfect to me, because I love going to concerts and my like top love language is gifts. So I just felt like that scene so perfectly like fit my love language and what I see as like being like cute and romantic, you know? So I was just like obsessed with that scene. Again, that was one of the cute like lighthearted moments of this book. There's definitely a lot of other things that go on, so again, just make sure to check trigger warnings. They are listed in the front of this book, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, after that obviously I read the second book. This is a duet, and the second book is The Resurrection of Wildflowers, and this one I enjoyed it a lot too. I wasn't sure what to rate it at first. I did end up rating it 5 stars also. I think I just like overall rated the duet as 5 stars. I didn't really like this book as much as the first one, but I still enjoyed reading it. This one also is again really tragic, definitely check trigger warnings. But this one is just kind of a continuation of their story. I don't want to say too much about it because I literally can't say anything like without spoiling it. I've seen a lot of people say that this book just really felt like an extended epilogue, which I completely agree. It was definitely like really just drawn out, especially like in the second half. It could have been shorter. Like I kind of felt like it was dragging on a little bit, and I was kind of just like waiting for it to end, but I did enjoy it. I enjoyed getting like the end of their story. It was really cute, and I don't really know what else, but I liked this duet overall. I rated them both 5 stars. I would recommend it. Just check trigger warnings for both of these. So the next book that I read was so amazing. It literally became one of my favorite books of all time. I just loved it so much. I literally can't get over it. I can't stop thinking about it. And that book is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. So this book, I loved it so much. I have so much to say about it. I think I'm gonna do a full like review video, so I don't want to say too much in this video because I want to like talk about it more because I have so much to say. But this book was amazing. I highly recommend it. Like if you read any of these books, read that one. It's just so good. But basically it follows Ariana, and she just graduated high school. She's about to go into college, so it's like the summer before college, and she has like a crush on her brother's friend. He's her friend too. They're like a friend group of like 5 of them, and so she's had a crush on this guy since like they were 12 years old or something. And then something kind of happens with him that ends in her just being really heartbroken, and so she goes off to college, and basically she is in this whole like kind of like depression. Like she's just really sad all the time. She's distanced herself from everyone. She doesn't go out or do anything, and yeah, and so she's slowly starting to like pick up the pieces of her life. And yeah, that's kind of the main like synopsis. I feel like that's the best way to describe it without giving away too much. But this book, I had heard really good things about it. A lot of people loved it and said it was like one of their favorite books ever, and I just didn't think I was gonna feel that way about it. I like knew it was gonna be like a sports romance, but I knew there was gonna be more to the story because a lot of people said that they cried, but I really like just didn't expect this book to be what it was. But yeah, this story was amazing. Literally one of the most amazing stories I've read. I loved it so much. I can't get over it. I went through so many emotions reading this book. It will literally take you on a roller coaster of emotions, so like be prepared for that if you decide to read it. And if you've read it, please let me know your thoughts, because I'm literally obsessed with this book and I just want to like talk about it more. But yeah, but this book, people said it made them cry. It definitely made me cry, like a lot. It was literally one of the most heartbreaking books I have read. But yeah, I just got so like emotionally attached to these characters. There's one character specifically that I absolutely loved. It was the main love interest, obviously. He's like my new favorite book boyfriend, and I'm obsessed with him. It is a really long book, but I finished it so quickly. I just like got hooked on this book and I like couldn't put it down. I literally couldn't put it down. I stayed up like almost all night to finish this book because I needed to know how it ended. I will say that when I read that first kind of 25 to 30%, I was not super invested. I was a little bit bored. Once I got past that, that's again when I got just like more into the book and actually really started to love it a lot more. But yeah, I will be doing a full review because I just loved it so much and I want to talk more about it, and I want to also go into like spoilers about it because I just have so many thoughts and it was just amazing. But please read it if you haven't. I highly recommend this book. Again, literally one of my new all-time favorite books that I've ever read. I rated it 5 stars, obviously, because I loved it. If I could rate it higher, I would, because it was just so good. So then after that, I knew that nothing else was gonna top how amazing that book was, most likely. But I ended up reading another book by Megan Brandy, and so I read Dirty Curve. So this book had been on my TBR for like a really long time, and I kind of, obviously because of how much I loved Say You Swear, like I felt like reading another Megan Brandy book would be like close enough to that, so I decided to read Dirty Curve. By the way, this book takes place at the same university that Say You Swear takes place at, so my favorite character that I loved so much when I read Say You Swear does make an appearance in this book, and that was like the best part of the book to me. I know like that's pointless, and like he makes like the tiniest little cameo for like a couple pages, but he's there and I just love that. You don't need to read them in order. This book, Dirty Curve, technically takes place before the events of Say You Swear, but it like really doesn't matter. Just that character that I loved in Say You Swear appears in this book. But I am glad that I read Dirty Curve after Say You Swear, because that little cameo just was like so much better, like now that I already knew that character. Anyway, so Dirty Curve follows Meyer and Tobias. Tobias is like the star baseball player, and he is like failing his classes and he needs a tutor, so Meyer is assigned to be his tutor. And so she's kind of like reluctant to help him at first, but she obviously has to because it's her job. And so the two of them start to spend more time together and they kind of start to fall for each other. But she is hiding something from him. Well, not just from him, she's just hiding something in general. And so he obviously ends up finding out what it is and everything. And I mean, that's kind of the main like synopsis. I don't feel like I can go any more in depth than that. But yeah, I also really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4.5 stars. I really liked both of these characters and I liked kind of seeing their development, especially Tobias, because he is kind of like the like bad boy, you know, and like it was just interesting to see like the way he like changes when he gets to know Meyer. Yeah, I just like seeing that and it was really cute and I just really enjoyed this one. I did think that the ending was a little rushed, but other than that, I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a great book, and yeah, I definitely want to read more by Megan Brandy. So the next book I read was Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Genshak, and this book was really cute. I really enjoyed it. Basically, it follows Daisy. And she is like this like quiet, shy girl, and she goes to this university. She is a sophomore there, and she has a crush on this guy named Liam. He is on the hockey team and he's in her physics class, and Liam sits next to Jordan. Jordan is also on the hockey team and he's like best friends and roommates with Liam. And so basically her partner for physics dropped the class or just stopped showing up, and the professor decides to partner her up with Liam and Jordan. So she starts working with them during class, and like I said, she has a crush on Liam and it's very obvious, and Jordan kind of picks up on that. And then Jordan ends up asking Daisy to help him with like tutoring and stuff for different classes, and so she agrees to help him. And as she starts to help him, she starts to kind of fall for Jordan, and she realizes she was like, you know, crushing on the wrong guy this whole time, and that Jordan is kind of the one that she should be with. And yeah, that's kind of mainly what happens. There's a lot more that happens. I don't want to make it seem like I'm giving the whole thing away, but yeah, I enjoyed this book. Like, I thought it was really cute, and I think the main reason why I enjoyed it is because of like how much I felt like the main character, like, not that I don't feel like I necessarily like related to her as far as like her troubles and her problems and stuff, but I just felt like a lot of her personality was very similar to mine. The main thing being that she's like this very shy, quiet girl. She doesn't really have a ton of friends. Like her closest friend is her cousin, and she just overthinks like everything, and she overthinks like all these like social interactions. I don't know, I just felt like I very much related to that. And then one of the other huge things is that she is like obsessed with Shawn Mendes. Well, not like obsessed, but he's like her favorite artist, and she mentions that at one point, and I love Shawn Mendes. He's like my favorite artist too. And so I just thought it was funny, like all the little things that I found that just felt like it was literally me. And like I felt like I was kind of reading my college experience almost. Not exactly, because I didn't find the cute hockey player when I was in college. So I ended up rating this book initially 3.5 stars, but I would probably say like 3.75. It was, like I said, it was really cute. I did enjoy reading it. It was just like a little bit boring at times, and there was just certain things that I didn't really care for. Just like things that happened that I, like little plot points that I just like didn't really care about. But again, I think just because of how much I liked the main character, because we were so similar, that's a big part of why I enjoyed this book and wanted to continue reading it. Also, another thing that really got me about this book was the dedication. And so the dedication says, "For all the quiet girls, I hear you." And I just loved that. I know like she just like wrote it, like it's just a dedication, but I felt like it just felt very personal, like because I related to hearing that or to reading that, and so I just really loved that. And so that was like a huge thing that drew me into reading this book. So the next book that I read was A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. So this book, I had seen it like a lot on TikTok mostly, I think, and I really liked the cover of it. I don't know why. I was like really drawn to this cover, which the cover was like very relevant to what kind of goes on in the book. I liked this one, I think, overall. The characters in this book are in high school. They are 17 and 18. I normally don't like high school books, but I decided to give this one a chance because a lot of people were loving it. And so it follows Crew and Ren. And so Ren is very much like a good girl, and Crew is kind of like the bad boy. And basically they're both like really, they're popular people. Like they're both popular in their school. And so they're similar like in those ways, but they also like don't like each other. And they're also just kind of like different. Like she's very much, like I said, she's a good girl. She is a virgin and she wears like a purity ring, but she's just very much like a good girl, like follows all the rules, and she's just liked by a lot of people. Whereas Crew, he's very popular, but more so in the way that people are like scared of him and intimidated by him. And so his family actually owns the school that they go to, and he's really rich. Ren is also rich, but not nearly as rich as Crew. And so the two of them end up getting paired up for a project, and Crew is kind of like obsessed with Ren. He thinks she's like the most beautiful girl ever, and so that's where I was like a little bit confused, because they seem to not like each other, but then like you would be in his head and he would just be thinking about like how beautiful she is, but at the same time he also just like, it seemed like he just kind of wanted to like corrupt her because she was such a good girl, and he wanted to like be the one to like take her virginity and stuff. So I don't know, I was like, at first I was confused because I couldn't understand if he was like a good person or not, because it seemed like one of those things where he was just putting on this act like he hated her and that he was really like obsessed with her and thought she was so beautiful. But then he would think about how innocent she was and how he wanted to like, you know, destroy her innocence and all that. So then I was like, is he good or not? Like I was just confused at first, but I ended up really loving him in the end. He was really sweet. He did all these nice things for her. I mentioned earlier about my top love language being gifts. So like just the things he sent her, because they were really thoughtful gifts. And so that's what I really loved, is that they were super thoughtful gifts and they were things that she wanted, and he like took note of that and got them for her. And so yeah, I just really loved that whole aspect of the story. But yeah, but basically they are paired together for a project, and they kind of start to like get closer, get to know each other, and through that they kind of start to fall for each other. The thing with this book is that there's really no plot. So I feel like I enjoyed it, but I feel like if there would have been a better plot, it would have been a 5-star read. I feel like it was just more centered around like the characters developing, especially Ren, because she changes so much throughout the book and kind of starts to learn to like stand up for herself and stuff. And so I really liked that, but that's kind of mainly what you see. I feel like other than that, there's like not a plot. So yeah, I rated it 4 stars. I think if there would have just been a little bit more to the story, more of a plot, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. So then after that, I read The Wrong Brother, which is also by Monica Murphy. And this book is actually a novella. It's super short. It basically follows Crue's older brother, and he has a girlfriend. They are both mentioned in A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime, and so you kind of just see like the start of their relationship, like kind of how they came about and how they started dating. And this book, or novella I guess, didn't really have much going on in it. Like a lot of it was smut, honestly. I could have done without it, like I didn't need to read it. I don't regret reading it. It wasn't like a big deal that I read it, even though I didn't really care for it. Like I just like kind of moved on from it because I just read it so quickly and I was just like, whatever, that was pointless, but like I wasn't upset about it either. I don't normally rate novellas because I just feel like they're so short. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. Like I said, it's like pretty much all smut, so if you're wanting like that type of novella, then like go for this one, I guess. But yeah, other than that, like there was nothing to this. Like it didn't really make sense to me at all. I just feel like the main guy, his name's Grant, I feel like he just turned around so quickly of like what he wanted. He was very much like he sleeps around and like doesn't commit to women type of person, and then all of a sudden he was like wanting to commit to her, and it just seemed so like sudden and random, and it didn't really make sense considering how he acted in the beginning. So after I read that book, I ended up reading Wildcat, which is also by Rebecca Genshak. And so this book again is a hockey romance. This one they are a little bit older, like he is a professional hockey player. And so this book basically follows, I don't remember their names again, Leo and Scarlett. Scarlett like was in college. She dropped out, and so Leo is also a student, but he also obviously plays hockey, so like he takes classes kind of just like on the side. And so basically he's hanging out at like his college's local bar, and Scarlett is there and she is the bartender for the night, but he sees her and he's kind of like immediately drawn to her. He ends up talking to her, they're like chatting for a little bit, they kind of hit it off, and Scarlett's best friend is there too, and they're about to go out, so they invite him to come along. Basically they have a ton of fun together, they get along really great, they just like click really well. She goes over to his house and they kind of like have this one night stand, but then a couple weeks later they're having like their team kickoff party, and they're having it at the coach's house, and his daughter shows up, and his daughter is Scarlett. So it's like a coach's daughter trope, which I really love that trope. And so this book had that. He finds out she's his coach's daughter, and obviously they decide that they shouldn't really be together because of that. But basically like she's like this perfect girl for him. She's like his dream girl, and he really likes her and he wants her to give him a chance, but she's a little bit reluctant. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book a lot. I thought it was really cute. I was like very invested in it. It's kind of very just like lighthearted for the most part. I thought it was a really cute story. Like if you're looking for just something cute and like light to read and like fun, then I would definitely recommend this one. But yeah, it was just enjoyable. I really liked reading about all these characters. They were all like likable characters to me. I liked seeing like Scarlett and like her family and their dynamic, and she had like a good like close relationship with her dad, which I thought was really sweet. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one. There is like a second book that I'm not sure when it comes out. I think it comes out this month, and so I'm looking forward to reading that, and I know that there's another one that comes out after that, so I definitely am excited to read more about these characters. Yeah, I ended up rating this one 4.25 stars. I do feel like there was kind of some build up to what I thought was gonna be like a huge conflict, and it ended up not being a conflict, if that makes sense. Like the story started to build up like certain storylines and making it seem like that was going to be an issue, and then all of a sudden it was like resolved. There was conflict in this book that happened, and I didn't really like the conflict that happened. I didn't care for it, but there was like other things that I thought were kind of going to be an issue and I thought were going to be like the main conflict of the story, and then they just like weren't. But yeah, overall I did really enjoy it. I thought it was really cute, and I am looking forward to reading the next book. So that is it for this video. I read a lot of books this month, and I feel like I've been talking for a really long time about them, but yeah, I really loved talking about these books. Like I said, I read some really great books that I really enjoyed. But if you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.